we start with Aemilius Paulus to continue Plutarch's Lives, translated by John Dryden, revised by Arthur Hugh Clough. Almost all historians agree that the Aemilii were one of the ancient and patrician houses in Rome, and those authors who affirm that King Numa was pupil to Pythagoras tell us that the first who gave name to his posterity was Mamercus, the son of Pythagoras, who for his grace and address in speaking was called Aemilius. Most of this race that have risen through their merit to reputation also enjoyed good fortune, and even misfortune to Lucius Paulus at the battle of Cannae gave testimony to his wisdom and valor, for not being able to persuade his colleague not to hazard the battle, he, though against his judgment, joined with him in the contest, but was no companion in his flight. On the contrary, when he that was so resolute to engage deserted him in the midst of danger, he kept the field and died fighting. This Aemilius had a daughter named Aemilia, who was married to Scipio the Great, and a son, Paulus, who is the subject of my present history. In his early manhood, which fell at a time when Rome was flourishing with illustrious characters, he was distinguished for not attaching himself to the studies usual with the young men of mark of that age, nor treading the same paths to fame, for he did not practice oratory with a view to pleading causes, nor would he stoop to salute, embrace, and entertain the vulgar, which were the unusual insinuating arts by which many grew popular. Not that he was incapable of either, but he chose to purchase a much more lasting glory by his valor, justice, and integrity, and in these virtues he soon outstripped all his equals. The first honorable office he aspired to was that of aedile, which he carried against 12 competitors of such merit that all of them in process of time were consuls, being afterwards chosen into the number of priests called augurs, appointed amongst the Romans to observe and register divinations made by the flight of birds or prodigies in the air. He so carefully studied the ancient customs of his country, and so thoroughly understood the religion of his ancestors, that his office, which was before only esteemed a title of honor and merely upon that account sought after, by this means rose to the rank of one of the highest arts, and gave a confirmation to the correctness of the definition which some philosophers have given of religion, that it is the science of worshipping the gods. Now, see, even, if there's some issues with the path, like, the birds are going to do what they do regardless. It doesn't, and people can direct the oracle to say something good or bad, right? Of various sorts. But when we combine life with, with religion, then, it tends to strengthen life. It tends to strengthen health. Regardless of what that path is, that seems to be the objective case now. Because honestly, people are going to believe things that aren't true, even proven wrong, pretty much regardless, right? Well, the art and science of religion is one of the definitions of magic too. So, when he performed any part of his duty, he did it with great skill and utmost care, making it, when he was engaged in it, his only business, not omitting any one ceremony or adding the least circumstance, but always insisting with his companions of the same order, even on points that might seem inconsiderable, and urging upon them that though they might think the deity was easily pacified and ready to forgive faults of inadvertency, yet any such laxity was a very dangerous thing for a commonwealth to allow, because honestly, everything counts. And if you let yourself weaken in this way, who knows what, is going to fall through because of that. Because no man ever began the disturbance of his country's peace by a notorious breach of its laws, and those who are careless in trifles give a precedent for remissness in important duties. And you see that not only is it harder the people that, like, for example, delay and are lazy about their religious duties, it takes more time and all that, it tends to follow into other things too, to the point where I've seen people who wouldn't even try to make tens of thousands of dollars because, they're of the mentality that, they drag their feet to the last minute with religious duties, and then other things followed suit, and they kind of built in with that. I'm not saying that everything attributed to religion is actually a duty, but, nor was he less severe in requiring and observing the ancient Roman discipline in military affairs, nor endeavoring, when he had the command, to ingratiate himself with his soldiers by popular flattery, though this custom prevailed at that time amongst many, who by favor and gentleness to those that were under them in their first employment sought to be promoted to a second, but by instructing them in the laws of military discipline, with the same care and exactness a priest would use in teaching ceremonies and dreadful mysteries, and by severity to such as transgressed and contemned those laws, he maintained his country in its former greatness, esteeming victory over enemies itself but as an accessory to the proper training and disciplining of the citizens. Whilst the Romans were engaged in war with Antioch, the Greek against whom their most experienced commanders were employed, there arose another war in the west, and they were all up in arms in Spain. Thither they sent Aemilius in the quality of a praetor, not with 6 axes, which number other praetors were accustomed to have carried before them, but with 12, so that in his praetorship he was honored with the dignity of a consul. He twice overcame the barbarians' battle, 30,000 of which were slain, successive chiefly to be ascribed in the wisdom and conduct of the commander, who by his great skill in choosing the advantage of the ground and making the onset of the passage of a river gave his soldiers an easy victory. Multiple cultures have like 6 months or 6 seasons. It actually renders more as seasons, I think, in a couple cases I'm thinking of, but I can't remember. Commented these things relevantly and appropriately as you will. Having made himself master of 250 cities, whose inhabitants voluntarily yielded and bound themselves by oath to fidelity, he left the province in peace and returned to Rome, not enriching himself a drachma by the war, and indeed, in general, he was but remiss in making money, though he always lived freely and generously on what he had, which was so far from being excessive that after his death there was barely enough left to answer his wife's dowry. His first wife was Papiria, the daughter of Maso, who had formerly been consul. With her he lived a considerable time in wedlock, and then divorced her, though she had made him the father of noble children, being mother of the renowned Scipio and Fabius Maximus. The reason of this separation has not come to our knowledge, but there seems to have been a truth conveyed in the account of another Roman's being divorced from his wife, which may be applicable here, this person being highly blamed by his friends, who demanded, was she not chaste? Was she not fair? Was she not fruitful? Holding out his shoe, asked them whether it was not new and well made. Yet, added he, none of you can tell where it pinches me. Certain it is that great and open faults have often led to no separation, while mere petty, repeated annoyances arising from unpleasantness or incongruity of character have been the occasion of such estrangement to make it impossible for man and wife to live together with any content. One of the things that we probably should look at is the simple fact that people are a package, and be grateful of the good, not the bad, and often the bad is just people expect people to make things about serving them rather than working together, and like if it hurts somebody else, that sort of thing. That's it. What you want, who cares? But it displeases me because this person won't let me do this thing that hurts them. It's like, something wrong with you that makes you a psychopath. But Aemilius, having thus put away Papiria, married a second wife, by whom he had 2 sons, whom he brought up in his own house, transferring the 2 former into the greatest and the most noble families of Rome. The elder was adopted into the house of Fabius Maximus, who was 5 times consul, the younger by the son of Scipio Africanus, his cousin German, and was by him named Scipio. Of the daughters of Aemilius was married to the son of Cato, the other to Aelius Tibero, a most worthy man, and the one Roman who best succeeded in combining liberal habits with poverty. For there were 16 near relations, all of them the family of the Alii, possessed of but one farm, which sufficed them all, whilst one small house, or rather cottage, contained them, their numerous offspring, and their wives, among whom was the daughter of Aemilius, who, although her father had been twice consul, had twice triumphed, and was not ashamed of her husband's